Hello seniors, this is an introduction to sticky notes, and this is the way that I'm going to teach you how to use the AP Environmental Science textbook. Today is going to be Learning Target 1.01 Ecology, and we're specifically looking at Chapter 6, Module 20 on page 212. So let's begin there. There's an associated sticky note Google Doc where you will write down the notes. So the main concept is community ecology, and so this is your first definition. You will always be able to find the official pink definition right here in these pink boxes in the corners, and in this case you can actually type word for word what that definition is. You can have that as the official definition. In the next box over, however, I want you to read carefully and then add additional information that you find in the body of text. And here you want to summarize. You don't have to type up everything in the paragraph. And then I will place the sticky note back so you can kind of reference it visually. Okay. So yesterday we began the lesson talking about symbiotic relationships. And so again, we have like a quick definition of what a symbiotic relationship is and the three different types. Many times you hear like, oh, that's a symbiotic relationship, but what they actually mean is a mutualistic relationship. So we're going to learn the differences between these three words. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to actually switch topics a little bit, and we're going to talk specifically about competition. And so competition is the struggle of individuals to obtain a shared limiting resource. A limited resource is something that there's just like a finite amount, like a limited amount. And when two species need to get that same resource, it could be a location, it could be food, it could be water, there's going to be competition between the two. And so you want to look at the body of text to get additional information, and then the official definition is here. The next concept that you're responsible for is this thing called competition exclusion principle. And there, when it's the idea that when two species are competing for the same resource, they can't actually exist in that same space. Then something will happen, and you'll read more about what that means there. Okay. And so related to that is figure 20.1. And so they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and in this case, in science, we use figures all the time. So it's an important skill for you to understand, and it's always on every single AP environmental exam, and therefore will be on a Codman LTA as well. So this is figure 20.1, and there's a huge space on your note catcher to basically define what the x-axes are, which is the horizontal axis going left to right, and then your y-axis, which just goes up and down, vertical. Each time you look at a figure, if there's a graph, you want to make sure you know what the x and the y-axes are first, and then look, oh, what does the actual data on the graph mean? There are three graphs. You should make sure that you understand what graphs A and B mean, and then look at graph C. So when you look at graph C, you want to basically take note, what is the difference that you see here compared to graphs A and B? You get additional information in the body of the text underneath the sticky, as well as key information in the text figure below. Please take note that figure 20.1 is extremely important and that you must be able to understand what this graph means. It will appear on a test. Okay. The next idea is what happens when two species are in competition? How will they share that resource? This is known as resource partitioning. Okay. So your formal definition is here. Extra details can be found here, and it references figure 20.2. And figure 20.2 is actually found on the next page. Again, all figures that I highlight are extremely important, so you want to make sure that you understand what does the x-axis mean, what does the y-axis mean, and then what is the main point of each of these slides. The summary can be found below, but the main description is actually underneath this sticky note here, so please make sure that you flip back and forth while reading it. So when two species are in competition, they want to reduce that competition because they don't want to keep competing. They want to cooperate in some way. And how they do that is that they have three different strategies to reduce competition. And those strategies can be found here. Please make sure that you take good notes there as well. Okay, so that is competition. The next section is thinking about how two different species will impact one another based on a relationship. So here we have predation. So for predation, we want to make sure what is the predator and what is the prey. Okay, so the predator eats the prey, and this is a Very positive and very negative relationship, as you can imagine. The next three are the major symbiotic relationships that you're responsible for. So again, you want the formal definition, which you can find here, and then you want to write down examples, either that you saw in class or are in the textbook itself. So you need to figure out what is parasitism, mutualism, and commensalism. So again, you can find formal definitions in the corners and extra information inside. The figures you can keep a look at, and then they will have illustrations of what those examples are. So again, you can skim the text, focus on mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Our final thing that you need to do for your sticky notes is table 20.1, which is a summary of all the different types of relationships. I am purposely skipping herbivory, this one, because it is something that we'll talk about when we go over food chains. Okay? So again, please use this video to kind of give you an introduction of sticky notes. We'll have more information in the future, and but we'll be doing most of this in class.